Welcome back to my channel. Today, we'll be discussing Please Don't Bite Me So Much by Sangou Mitsuru. Now before we get started, there will be spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled on this manga, go ahead and click off now. No worries, I'll catch you next time. Now for those of you left behind, let's go over some content warnings. There may be references to dubious consent, sexual assault, rape, bite fetish, obsessive and or toxic partners, drugging, and drugs, as these things do appear in this manga. Now if all that's good with you, let's go ahead and get started. Now let's start with a quick synopsis. Yanagi wants to be cool, so he's bleached his hair and changed his image to achieve just that. But even with that change, Yanagi still isn't putting out the image he desperately craves as a self-proclaimed plain face. Of course, it doesn't help that he's put face to face every day at work with a guy that embodies all of the attitude and aesthetic he craves for himself, Igarashi. Igarashi is the talk of the town. He's good looking, a bit of a playboy, and he's got an aesthetic that Yanagi would die for. Needless to say, Yanagi isn't Igarashi's biggest fan. Even so, much like everyone else, Yanagi can't help but be drawn to the tall, dark, and handsome coworker. But what draws Yanagi to Igarashi isn't the same thing that draws anyone else in. Igarashi has a unique characteristic, a set of pronounced, fanged canines. For whatever reason, Yanagi desperately wants to touch them. Instead, he wouldn't mind if Igarashi bit him with those sharp teeth, but when would that chance ever come about? Now, as someone who also has a biting fetish, I want to be bitten, I don't want to be the biter, this makes me feel things. Igarashi, our fang top, is hot as all get out. He's your classic bad boy player type, which checks all of my boxes, as toxic as that might be. Now, with that being said, the art is not what I would call your typical pretty manga art style. I like it, but the eyes in particular look thin, vacant, and just odd on the faces of the characters. I don't think it's ugly, but it is a bit unusual, and I can foresee a lot of readers being potentially turned off by it. The cover doesn't really show what I mean, so be warned. So one really odd and in my opinion unnecessary addition is the main character Yanagi's sister complex. I don't know why that was added, but I found it odd and distracting. The sister character does play a role, albeit a minor one, as our temperature gauge for how Yanagi has changed or how he's feeling, but I still don't see why the sister complex had to be added in. Not to mention the sister is unnecessarily rude and bitchy. The sister in general is just sort of an enigma for me. I would have preferred the sister not to be present at all, but here we are. Now, someone with a biting fetish, I have to note just how hot the sex scenes are. They really are a good time, but with most of these short-form yaoi manga, the ratio of sex to the story is rough. The story is almost always there simply to facilitate sex, which is fine if you're there for a good time, but the story in this case is pretty superficial. It's fluffy and sensual, but there's not very much substance. I think this is partly why the sister character exists as a third party to help facilitate the discussion of our main character's emotions. I would have preferred there to be more story and self-reflection, though that would have lengthened the work probably substantially. But it would have helped build up the love confession and given it a bit more depth. Ultimately, though, the sex is good, and the story is fine, and for some people, that's all you need. Now, while I have mentioned this does have some dubious consent in it, as I mentioned before in the content warnings, I've also added rape in there because the sex is used as a punishment in this case. Igarashi plays the straight player who's confused by his feelings toward another man. Of course, Igarashi isn't willing to explore his feelings beyond sex until Yanagi begins to stray. Then, all of a sudden, he can't stand it. So, of course, instead of exploring those feelings a bit or talking them out, he punishes Yanagi with sex. I love the possessive top trope as much as the next person. Still, when those characters turn sex into a weapon to control their partners outside of consensual BDSM play, just to be precise, it becomes a whole other issue that I definitely want to note for anyone who isn't interested in something like that. Now, with all that being said, I like this one, primarily due to it scratching my own kink itches, admittedly, but I do think this is a fun one. The art style is unique, so I can imagine many people not being interested based on that, but if you want a sexy time for a short time, you can't really go wrong here. I recommend this, but I am extremely biased here if it isn't clear yet. If you have a problem with that, then bite me. Yes, that wordplay was intended. I'm so sorry about that. So, have you read Please Don't Bite Me So Much? If so, what do you think? Do you agree with my assessment? Do you not? Let me know and comment below. Otherwise, I'll catch you next time. Bye!